Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Outlier Podcast. Got one of my favorite marketers in credit union is Chris Keller from Empower. Hi Chris, how you doing, brother?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Complain all good. Like Thursday, just there, very long week, but great. Just experimenting about AI like every single week and trying to move one step at a time. All good, all fun.
Yeah, it's all really cool and interesting stuff. I'm doing the same over here. Every day I learn something new.
That's what keeps us going. That's the most important thing. A quick introduction to who Chris is. I mean, obviously, I won't spend minutes introducing him because he's got a very non-linear background, and that's what I like. Over here, that's the reason I invited him to the podcast. So, Chris is CMO of Empower Credit Union with a background in banking, somewhat banking. He was an M&T for a few years and then moved on to the credit unions, right? So, I'll take a pause, Chris. Do you want to talk about your journey a bit? I mean, how did you end up in credit unions, or what has been your journey so far from the start?
Yeah, sure. So it's been an interesting journey. I never imagined that I'd ever really be working in financial services. So to go all the way back, I was a kind of non-traditional college student. I went a little bit later. I started at 21. I was a hockey player. I got recruited to play at a Division III school in Wisconsin, downtown Milwaukee, which happened to be an engineering school. So I started as an engineer. And it's funny now, being at a financial institution, realized I wasn't that great at math. So I swapped out engineering, biomedical engineering, for business, and kind of just got my degree from there. And then, worked at a heavy lifting and a hydraulic kind of manufacturing company first out of college. So kind of still aligned with the engineering track. And ended up attending a startup weekend and kind of got that startup and growth bug. And we ended up building something over a weekend, got a little bit of funding, went into an accelerator program, and I was hooked from there. And so, from there, I was an entrepreneur in residence, building startups inside of large Fortune 500 companies, public and private. I did that in the healthcare space and the food space, which brought me back home to New York. From there, started my own marketing agency because I really figured I loved the growth piece. I loved solving those problems of how to get people the things that they need. And, I met somebody that is actually teaching spin classes at a local gym here. And I met somebody that worked at M&T, and she said, "Hey, we're looking for a marketer, a growth marketer. Do you know anybody in your network that's looking?" And I said, "Well, let's just have coffee, kind of talk about it." And she said, "You'd be a good fit for this. Why don't you talk to my boss?" And I was like, I don't want to work at a bank. But I bet on him and ended up getting into M&T for a few years. From there, took another leap to move into the credit union space, which I was fairly unfamiliar with. But I've loved every second of it. I think it really resonates with kind of who I am as a person, and my DNA around, the mantra of people helping people really, really resonates with me and my family. And it's been a great move that we made. So we're loving every second of the credit union world.
So I didn't know about your engineering backstory. Same, right? I went to engineering school, figured out I am one of the most horrible engineers the earth can ever produce.
Yeah, I loved the idea of being able to kind of create stuff for people, but that stuff's got to work.
So there's a common saying back home in India. So in India, engineering has become a commodity, right? I mean, when a kid gets born, maybe the parents decide you either become a doctor or an engineer, right? And I was maybe one of them. I became an engineer, and so India, what people say, it doesn't matter what you want to become. You'll eventually figure out. First, do your engineering, and then you'll understand what you don't want to do, and then you'll figure out what you actually want to do. Yeah. So, same man, engineering, and then got rejected by almost all tech companies on the face of the earth, right? And then Accenture recruited me, did consulting. Similar to you, you went on to EIR. I did consulting, and, in the same boat now.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let me ask you a cliched question, right?
Sure.
Pretty cliched question. Why credit union? I mean, obviously it was shot in the dark for both of us. None of us knew what credit unions were. But now, why do you still stick to credit unions 3 years? Because I think both of us joined the movement exact same time, 3 years. So what keeps you going, man?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I actually learned on my team back at the bank was we had a unique sort of setup where we weren't really part of the core bank, but we built our own team around, the philosophy of human-centered design. So putting a human being, their thoughts, their feelings, their motivations right in the middle and center of everything that you do. And that's really the core of credit unions, honestly. Like it's, again, I mentioned people helping people, but we put our members in the middle of all the things that we do. Like our goal is to make their financial lives better. And I think there's a lot of meaning in that, and I think we take that responsibility very seriously, that we
Mhm.
can be a catalyst for someone's success in their life and giving people
Mhm.
access to a financial system that may have been designed to exclude them from it.
Yeah.
And so that really, when you put it in sort of that perspective, I think that
Mhm.
is really what, one keeps me going at credit unions. When you wake up in the morning and think, it's, you just have one of those days where you're like, man, it's been a winter here. You start to think about that and you say, man, but I have the opportunity and responsibility to help people today. And that's a really powerful thing for us to be able to do. And I think that's why, the credit union space really resonated with me, and which is, why, being involved in the community is so important too. And that's just rooted in the DNA of the industry as a whole.
I think it's very similar to the way how we have seen the world, because for us, being a brick in the wall is not an option. I get tired being a brick in the wall. If you can make an impact in your current role, be it with an employer or starting your own thing, that's what we look for. And I think that's what you're getting over there. I mean, you're able to actually make impact and change things.
Yeah. And it's a responsibility that we have, right?
Yeah.
I think being in a credit union, yes, we are very helpful from a financial perspective, but we're also
Yeah.
community driven, member owned. So we have the ability to not only help people from a finance perspective, but we can also leverage the resources that we have. Also, as like one of a larger credit union in New York,
Mhm.
to support some of the things in the community that our members care about, and some of the wraparound services that our members may use. Right. So we're pretty deep into, we participate a lot with the United Way. We participate a lot with, the food bank, as a credit union that, really started and has been very helpful to those of modest means. A decent amount of our membership use those wraparound services. So as we can support them too, I think that's something that means a lot to us as a credit union, and honestly me as a human too.
Yeah. That all dovetails into your way of thinking. Makes sense. Let's talk about, your point of view about marketing, right? You ran your own agency. You've seen everything outside, right? From Fortune 500s to working with regional banks, right? What does modern marketing, right? And what is the new age marketing that you are implementing or you envision in the credit union ecosystem?
Yeah, I think, I'll take a step out of the credit union industry, because I think,
Yeah. Yes.
marketing here has been very traditional for a long time. And I think what we're trying to do at Empower is, we're trying to take the best practices from some of the best marketing organizations in the world. So we don't want to be a best in class credit union marketing organization. We want to be a best in class marketing organization, full stop.
Yeah.
So, I think, the low hanging fruit there, right, is, how might we turn the hundreds of thousands of communications that we send one way to members? How do we turn those into actual conversations? And then how do we take those conversations and make them as valuable as possible for our membership?
Mhm.
And that's not just, what products you need next. It's, how do we make sure that your settings in your online banking are set up appropriately? How do we make sure you understand what our hold times are? How do you understand, how do we get you the information that you need when you need it? And instead of saying, we're just going to send you all of this stuff, get this, do that, it's turning that into a conversation at scale between the credit union and an individual member.
Yeah. I mean, the entire world talks about next best action, next best offer. I mean, credit unions talk about next best action, next best offer. The world spoke about 15 years back, propensity models were 15 years back. Now we're talking about marketing to AI agents. I mean, that's a different new ballgame altogether, right? I mean, I was just talking yesterday with someone that, I personally, that I'm traveling to Denver for a marketing conference, right? I have an agent that plans my entire itinerary. So next 2 years, I'm sure, I'll have agents for even picking up grocery. Doing everything, right? I don't have time to think about it. So you're not marketing to Anurag. I mean, the bureau credit attributes or the non-credit attributes for a prospect or a consumer is no longer valid. That's what I envision, right? There has to be separate credit worthiness for agents. I mean, that's very visionary, but that's what I think the world is moving on to. I mean, after open claw coming in, this is just crazy, right? And what you talked about is you're building a world-class organization, a cutting-edge marketing sciences team, for the lack of better words. That's what credit unions need. And, I'm sure this podcast will motivate a lot of other CMOs. And please feel free to reach out to this guy. I mean, he's one of my favorites. I mean, I've been following him for the last 6 months, 8 months. It took some time to get him to my podcast, but he is a real deal. Next is about people underestimate a lot of things. I mean, a couple of years back, people underestimated, not couple of years back, like 3 years, 4 years back when I came, 3 years back, most credit unions weren't doing much digital. They were just still sending direct mail and those play and pray approach. That no longer works, right? I mean, I never go to my mailbox to look at direct mail. Yeah, I mean, there's an audience that does, but digital is becoming table stakes. Obviously, your answer might not be digital, but still, dovetailing onto a question that is, what do you think one growth lever, right, that credit unions are still underestimating and you think this will have a huge impact?
Yeah, I think, and that's an interesting question. So when you think about digital, I want to take it to and connect it to the community piece. I think credit unions do a great job of supporting the community, but I think where there's a huge gap is how do you create that shared value? So a lot of credit unions give and give and give to the community, and it's amazing. But the purpose of a credit union is it's a member-owned institution. So how can you create shared value with the community in the things that you do to actually add value back to the credit union to be able to add value back to the community? So it's not just, again, we talked about two-way conversations. It's not just a one-way street. And, we're not a foundation. It's how do we give to the community to allow that to flow back into the credit union to be able to go back to the community. So it's more of a flywheel than it is.
Exactly.
Than it is, a two-way, or it's two-way street, not a highway and a bike path. So, how do we leverage digital and personalization and, geo-targeting and all of these things that we can get messages to people quicker, faster, and less expensive? And, we talk about financial literacy a lot. So we spend a lot of times in schools and how might we engage, our K through 12 financial literacy programs, the students that participate in them. How can we engage them throughout the year and get them into membership to be able to grow healthy financial habits throughout their childhood and into adulthood? So we're preparing them early and often. So while, a lot of people talk about digital acquisition and let's go to city X, city Y, city Z because we can. Yes, that's all important. But how do we layer on that community piece that really builds that loyalty and trust? If you can do that early and often, they're going to come for their auto loans. They're going to come for their mortgages. You're a trusted financial institution and trusted partner in their life. So while digital acquisition is great and it's a lever to pull, I think layering that community on top of it is almost that gasoline or that superpower that pause button in your car that can really, really, really move your organization forward.
Of the big question, since I'm passionate about generative engine optimization, because I believe that, there's an actual number. Gartner predicts that by 2028, 50% of organic traffic will move from search engines to AI engines. And we are not seeing that amount of traffic right now. 4 to 5%, not even 4 to 5% of your traffic comes. I think less than 1% of your traffic comes from ChatGPT or a Claude or a Perplexity. But this will grow. This is growing crazy, and to have people like me and you, we need to go to AI engines every single day for every single thing. What is your take, Chris, on relevancy or AI visibility of credit unions in AI engines?
Yeah, obviously it's important. I think the underlying fact of all of that, we talk about AI search, we talk about Google search. The underlying, impact on all of that is content. So how do you create the most relevant content for your small niche part of your business and your credit union? And you do that over and over and over again. And creating that quality content is correct. The technology, it's not all the same, but it all is driven by content.
100%.
And so how do you go and balance that? Let's optimize for Google or let's optimize for ChatGPT, but you still need to have the content first. So I think understanding that you gotta create this rich, valuable content that answers the right questions for the right people at the right time, and then optimize on top of that. I think a lot of people are skipping that step to say, we have content, we have all this stuff. Let's just make sure it's optimized for those platforms. But in reality, you're not one, asking the right questions and two, answering the right questions. So until you get that content layer done, no matter where it's for Google or it's written in a book, it's going to be wrong. So it doesn't really matter the technology. If your content's wrong, it's all going to be wrong. And someone's going to get it right. And it's going to be a competitor of yours. So I think, where we start to think about like, could we be doing things a lot faster? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We could throw a lot of tools out. We could do a lot of different things. But what we want to do is we want to be very disciplined in our approach and how we govern the things we want to do. So like, what agents have access to the right data at the right time for the right people, saying the right things? Because the second you start to throw things faster without those guardrails in place, you're starting to erode the trust that we've spent 100 years building, right? And in the industry as a whole, just take your time in implementing the tools and doing things the right way. And if you slow down, you can speed up later.
I mean, I sound like a broken record about content. So, I mean, I'm a content creator myself, right? I cannot talk more about that, but I've literally built a business from scratch, 0 to 1 journey in 2.5 years only with content. I mean, wish the entire world knew. So, I mean, I'm sure you haven't heard about this guy. So there's an Indian podcaster called Raj Shamani. Just type this guy out. Crazy guy, like millions of followers. One of the most successful podcaster in India. He has a post pinned on his Instagram profile. The first post is, in the next 5 or 10 years, every single person will be a content creator. And that's reality, right? And this is real. If you're, I mean, it's not a vaporware. And talking about credit unions or institution, I think it's no longer luxury that, yes, I need to fill that web page with something out there. No longer luxury. It's a real need right now to actually write good content. I judge an institution by their website, and I'm very clear about it. I love the experience of Chime. I love Stripe. I mean, I'm not asking a credit union to go and do that. But my question is, how difficult is it to make your website look sleek and sexy and have actual good content, so that I do not have to spend 8 minutes figuring out where is the checking account, and there are 5 different checking accounts in the layout, which doesn't just make sense. Right.
Yeah, and I think, this is probably a larger conversation, but I would also argue that if you have social profiles anywhere and have hit send or post in any of them, you are a content creator, whether you identify as that or not, because you put content out there. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's, achieving a goal or anything, but like if you've tweeted, like you are a content creator. You put content into the universe.
Yes, putting good content is important, man. Otherwise, you're inundating the people around and writing junk. So that's true. Next, I love the debate of acquisition and engagement, right? Because both of them are equally important. So acquisition versus engagement, where you put your bet in the next 1 year, right? What's your number one focus?
Yeah, I think over the next 12 months, we're really building out what I'll call our kind of tool belt. So, you mentioned levers. We want to build out a handful of levers from a new member acquisition perspective that we can pull to get members when we need members to extend our lending. So I think we're spending, the better part of this year kind of building some of those levers out and testing some of those in kind of like an MVP level. And then hopefully we'll be able to scale them. And we're also using that as like, how do we build a playbook to expand into new markets should when we want to. I think parallel paths, though, my member experience team is starting to outline journeys that our current members should be on. I mean, we're building some things in the back end around, you mentioned next best action, next best product and service. Like those things are kind of table stakes that are getting rolled out this year. But, how might we, engage our members better? So we're starting to map those journeys out, making consistent experiences from new member into product X, Y, and Z. So we're mapping all of those things out. And I think we'll sort of start to tackle those in our roadmap. And once we put together these, probably 3 to 5 growth levers for new members, we'll start to tackle the engagement piece a little bit more. We also have a roadmap of engagement around things that are full of friction for some of our members. When we think about indirect lending, indirect auto lending, right? We want to make sure that we engage those members right away. We don't have a direct conversation with them in the dealership. So how might we, again, engage them to become active members of the credit union versus just getting that loan in the dealership? So, there's things like that. that we want to do that are full of friction. And again, we're member experience team. They're mapping those things out. We'll kind of tackle them on an agile approach as necessary. But I think the next 12 months, we're building growth levers and how we can expand the membership base of our business.
That's the most important thing that credit unions need to focus right now, is to build that growth engine, because it's no longer good to have. Table stake, man. You have to grow to keep the shop running, right? Again, to your point, you're not running a foundation, for the lack of better words. You're actually running a growth engine. One debatable question, I don't know how the world will react, but that's fine. What do you think? What's one broken thing in the marketing ecosystem of a typical credit union? I mean, you've got friends across, right? You speak to people, but what do you think is the most broken thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna go with, I think the why is broken.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of marketing focuses a lot on the product, the service, like the rate, the cash back, those things, but I think often forgets the why behind those things. Checking accounts and things like that, they're commodity products, but like, why do people need the other stuff? Like, what are their motivations? What are their thoughts and feelings behind it? And we see a lot of the same in the industry. So a lot of the same type of campaigns, a lot of the same just things. And I think there hasn't necessarily been like a shift to be necessarily bold in your marketing and telling a bold and emotional story about even why credit unions exist. You read a lot of things from people in the communities that refer to credit unions as banks. We're not. So how can we better tell this story of how and why credit unions exist and what they should mean to you and what they mean to the people and members that are current owners of the credit union? So if you can make people care about something in here and how it makes them feel, I think that's a core piece that's missing. I think that the why is missing. There's a lot of rates out there, but why you should come here is missing.
I think one is why. Second is awareness. I mean, where you operate upstate, people are still aware of credit unions. You talk to any average New Yorker or my friends in Bay or in Austin, and I mean, our age, right? We know credit unions because, I mean, only if you've bought a car and only if you've bought a house. That's two instances you'll know a credit union. That's all right. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, surprisingly, one of my friends got his first mortgage, like good number one, and I think more than $1 million, right? In Bay. I asked him, okay, so good that you got a good rate. Why don't you, get a credit card from these guys? I mean, you got a rate of 7 to 8%, not 27% that you're paying right now for Discover. He was not even aware of the fact that the credit union actually had a credit card. It's not his fault. It's maybe the fault of the entire movement that we are not able to, appeal to not generic people who have wealth, people who are ready to park in money, but we don't know how to get that deposits, right? So yeah, to your point, 100% agree. Dovetailing onto that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know from an awareness perspective that credit unions offer the same things as banks. Like, we have the same technology, and oftentimes better technology.
Yeah,
and we can move. We're more nimble. We can move quicker. We can react to the things that you need. We can build them for you. Like, so I think it's the awareness piece is we found we had a comment once that one of our members didn't know that we had remote deposit capture. So we're not doing a good job of telling that story either. So, we need to do a better job as our institution and the industry as a whole of we're there with banks. We take the time to kind of care and talk and learn about you versus, just being a number.
That's what I told him, that you're not another customer on the side of IVR for a credit union. And he was struggling to reach the IVR because he had a thick Indian accent. IVR could not understand him, and he struggled for 4 minutes to get through the IVR to talk to an agent. I'm like, that doesn't happen in a credit union. Credit unions are different. So yeah, that's, I mean, we can talk about this for hours, but in the interest of time, one last question. What has been your one outlier moment? That's the reason the Outlier podcast. What has been your one outlier moment that was significant? Might be it was like it went right, went wrong, I don't know. But you want to talk about one moment in your career, life, personal, professional, whatever, right? That really has had an impact into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think there's a couple that come to mind. I mean, leaving a really good job to start my marketing agency was a pretty big jump, and it kind of bet on myself. But I think outside of that, I think how I've learned to kind of read and understand people and taking the time to kind of learn about psychology and learn about, the motivations of people. And the reason why I say that is that has led me to my last two roles have been really trusting individuals to do what they say they're going to do. So I think getting myself to MT, I trusted someone because I didn't have to leave to go there, but I trusted him. And I think that developing that good gut read for people. And then my CEO, who has supported me every moment of my journey here, good and bad, and Empower. I trusted him and, to deliver on the things that he wanted to do and the story he wanted to tell here, the legacy he wanted to leave for the credit union. And I think being able to identify that and spend time on early in my career, learning about that stuff led me to identify the opportunities to partner with really, really good and solid people. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think a book really helped me kind of figure out who I wanted to be. The book, The Alchemist, really helped me sort of frame, the world wants you to be successful and the world wants you to be doing the thing that you're put here to do, but you have to be open and honest enough to see what they call the omens, which are the opportunities around you that may not directly lead you to the thing, but it might be the first of 50 that lead you to the thing. So I think that helped frame my mindset of always being in tune with the things, people, and patterns around me to identify the good humans that I would want and what I'd want to be around and to trust, which has led me to the opportunities that I've had to be, successful throughout my career.
I should have met you a couple of years back. And same, I took so many bets on people. I mean, I was a geeky, nerdy kid doing data science and strategy, then to bet on someone at my current boss at EXL Vikas. He trusted me with a role that Anurag, go and build a business. I'm like, oh shit, I've never done that, that, right? I'm a consulting guy. Yeah, so similar to you. So this was great. I mean, this was so heartfelt conversation. So usually my podcasts end within 20 minutes. That's what I try, but this somehow just overshot and I loved conversation. No, nothing to fake. This is a refreshing one on a Thursday morning. I appreciate that this time, man. I appreciate and thank you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks.